the mysterious disappearance of Peter Bergmann. Every year, more than 500,000 people vanish without a trace. They leave behind families, lives, histories, and sometimes nothing at all. But in 2009, something even stranger happened. A man appeared. He had no past, no digital footprint, no ID, no family, no one searching for him. He called himself Peter Bergmann. But here's the thing, Peter Bergmann never existed. What followed was a series of calculated moves, carefully staged, eerily precise, and seemingly designed to erase every trace of who he was. Over just 4 days, he checked into a small hotel in a quiet Irish town, walked miles each day, disposed of his belongings in secret, and ultimately ended up dead on a beach with no clue left behind. His fingerprints led nowhere. His name didn't match any records. The address he gave at the hotel didn't exist. No friends, no enemies, no past. Who was Peter Bergmann? Why did he come to Sligo? And how did he manage to vanish from the world, only to die in plain sight? This is the story of one of the greatest modern mysteries of our time. A man who tried to erase himself and almost succeeded. Almost. The man who never existed. The mysterious disappearance of Peter Bergmann. We live in a world where people go missing every single day. In the United States alone, over 600,000 people are reported missing annually. Most are found, some vanish, but very few arrive. June 12, 2009, a quiet, cloudy Friday in Ireland. A man boarded a bus from Derry and made his way to Sligo, a coastal town known for its scenic beaches, charming streets, and not much else. He carried a purple plastic bag and a black shoulder bag and wore a black jacket. He was dressed neatly, his posture is upright, his walk is slow, deliberate. He got off the bus at Sligo station around 6:28 p.m. Surveillance footage captured him walking through the terminal. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't smile. He just walked. He looked around briefly, scanned the area, then turned and walked out of frame. That was the first time Peter Bergmann was ever seen in Sligo. Except, that wasn't his real name. Minutes later, he arrived at the Sligo City Hotel, just a short walk from the station. At the front desk, he checked in under the name Peter Bergmann. He said he was from Austria. He gave an address, Enstedersnob 15, Vienna. But there's just one problem. That address doesn't exist. In fact, authorities later discovered that not only was the address fake, but the name itself yielded no results in any database. Not in Austria, not in Europe, anywhere. He paid in cash, no credit card, no ID, just cash and a smile. He was assigned room 705, a quiet room on the top floor. Over the next 3 days, Peter Bergmann would leave the hotel multiple times a day. Each time, he carried that same purple plastic bag. And each time he came back, it was gone. Authorities believe he was discreetly disposing of his belongings, piece by piece in different public trash bins around the city. Whatever was in that bag, he didn't want anyone to find it. He never used the hotel bin. He was careful, always outside, always changing his path. He walked a lot. On Saturday, June 13th, he went to the post office. He bought 8 82-cent stamps and airmail stickers. He didn't send anything. No letter was ever found. No recipient ever came forward. Sunday, June 14th, he spent time walking along the coast. That evening, he asked the hotel receptionist where he could go for a nice swim. The receptionist suggested Ross's Point Beach. It was there that he would be found dead, just 2 days later. Monday, June 15th, 2009, Peter Bergmann left the hotel for the final time. He checked out around 11 a.m. Surveillance captured him at the hotel lobby, dressed in all black, his bags gone. No luggage, no purple bag, just a small shoulder bag, one that would never be found. He made his way towards Sligo bus station. He sat down on a bench for 20 minutes. He stood up, walked around, sat again. It was almost as if he was making sure he wasn't being followed. At 2:30 p.m., he boarded a bus to Ross's Point Beach. That evening, a local man walking his dog found a body lying in the sand. The man was dead. No signs of struggle, no bruises, no water in his lungs, meaning he didn't drown. In his pockets were $140 in cash, a pack of tissues, some headache pills, and a single torn piece of paper with the word Dignitas. Dignitas is a Swiss euthanasia clinic. Was Peter planning to end his life there? Or was this just another piece of the puzzle? The man who called himself Peter Bergmann was pronounced dead on Ross's Point Beach on June 16, 2009. But the mystery was just beginning. His body was found fully clothed, black trousers, black belt, black leather jacket. His shoes and socks were wet, but his body showed no signs of water inhalation, which meant one thing: he didn't drown. The autopsy revealed that he had advanced prostate cancer and bone cancer, and likely was in the late stages of illness. The pain would have been unbearable. And yet, he had no painkillers in his system. No opioids, no sedatives, no medication at all. Despite being severely ill, Peter Bergmann had disposed of every trace of medical treatment. Nothing about his condition showed up in his behavior. He walked normally, he smiled, he planned everything down to the smallest detail, even his pain. Cause of death? Acute cardiac arrest, brought on perhaps by the strain of walking for miles while terminally ill. But officially, it's unknown, because Peter didn't die by accident. He died on purpose. With no ID, no family, and no personal belongings, Irish authorities had almost nothing to work with. They began by analyzing hours of CCTV footage from the hotel, the post office, the bus station, and the streets. In total, Peter Bergmann appeared in over 16 different surveillance clips. But in every single one, he avoided direct eye contact with cameras. He moved with purpose. He never wandered. At no point did cameras catch what he did with the items in his plastic bag. They only ever caught the moments before and after, never the act itself. Investigators believe he carefully studied blind spots between cameras in the city. He had planned everything. In 4 days, he covered nearly every corner of Sligo. Always walking, always watching. His route changed slightly every day, just enough to avoid suspicion. The hotel room he stayed in was immaculate. No hairs, no fingerprints, not even a receipt. Authorities found nothing, as if he had cleaned it like a professional. With no identity, no belongings, and no leads, the world was left to do what it does best when faced with mystery: speculate. Terminal illness and euthanasia. The only physical clue found on his body was a torn piece of paper with the word Dignitas. Dignitas is a controversial clinic in Switzerland that provides assisted suicide for those suffering terminal illnesses. Peter Bergmann was dying. That much we know. Could he have been on a personal mission to die on his terms, far from home, free of family or interference? Maybe he wanted to disappear before the disease consumed him. Maybe he didn't want to be remembered at all, escaping a life or a crime. Some believe Peter Bergmann wasn't his real name because he was running from something or someone. He could have been a criminal, a fugitive, a disgraced figure trying to bury a secret before the illness took him. But searches across Interpol, Austrian databases, and even DNA submissions all returned nothing. No match, no trace, not even a hit from Interpol's red notice list. Whoever he was good at hiding. Intelligence or espionage. Some take the theory further. Was Peter Bergmann a spy? The methodical disposal of evidence, the use of false names, the precision of movement. It all feels trained, deliberate. Intelligence officers, especially older Cold War-era ones, were known to vanish like this. But if that's true, one question remains: why die so publicly? Suicide by disappearance. Perhaps the most haunting theory is the simplest one. Peter Bergmann didn't just want to die. He wanted to erase himself. No identity, no legacy, no history, just a silent end on a quiet beach in a country far from home. And maybe he succeeded. The questions that haunt me. Think about him more than I should. A man with no past, no future, just 4 carefully curated days in a coastal town, and then vanished. I ask myself, why Sligo? Why not Dublin, or Galway, or some other place where he could disappear into the crowd? Did he pick it because it was quiet? Because it was peaceful? Or because he knew no one would recognize him there? Why go through the trouble of removing labels from his clothes? Why destroy his personal items piece by piece? Was he afraid of being found? Or was he making a final statement that his story would end with him and no one else? And what was in the bag, that damn purple bag? He carried it everywhere, then suddenly it was gone. No one saw what he did with it. Maybe it held his passport. Maybe it held letters, memories, or evidence of a life long erased. It's probably buried in a landfill now, along with every clue we'll never find. The legacy of a man with no name. In the years since his death, the story of Peter Bergmann has become a digital legend. The internet has tried and failed to solve the puzzle. Reddit forums with 200 comment threads, YouTube videos watched by millions, private detectives, armchair sleuths, code breakers, all obsessed with one question. He's inspired documentaries, poems, conspiracy theories, and even a short film that reimagines his final days. But we're no closer to answers. He walked into a small Irish town and became one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the modern era. Not because he was famous, not because he committed a crime, but because he did something none of us are prepared for. He vanished on purpose. What if he got what he wanted? Sometimes I wonder if we're the ones who are wrong. Maybe Peter didn't want to be found. Maybe we're violating a dying man's final wish, to cease existing. He knew he was dying. He had the means, the intelligence, the discipline to pull it off. And he did. He erased himself. He knew he was dying. He had the means, the intelligence, the discipline to pull it off. And he did. He erased himself. We are taught to believe that everyone wants to be remembered, that legacy matters, that someone somewhere will mourn you when you're gone. But Peter didn't believe that. Or maybe he did and just couldn't bear it. Either way, he chose silence. He chose mystery. Final thoughts. What would you do? If you knew your time was almost up, if your body was shutting down, would you tell anyone? Or would you vanish like Peter? Would you leave behind a message, or would you take your secrets with you? Every time I pass a stranger, a man with a briefcase, a quiet look, a purple bag, I wonder, could it be him? Could Peter Bergmann have succeeded more than we know? Could he be watching this video right now? Or is he long gone? His story sealed by the waves, his name never spoken again. The outro, one final mystery. No one came to claim his body. No one filed a missing person report. No DNA match, no relatives, no past. He was buried in a modest grave in Sligo. The headstone reads, Peter Bergmann, name unknown. And that's how his story ends. A man who came from nowhere, stayed 4 days, died quietly, and took every answer with him. If this story moved you, if you think someone out there might know something, share this video. Maybe someone will recognize him, maybe not. But either way, let his story be remembered. Because not all mysteries get solved. Some are meant to stay open. Peter Bergmann, 2009. Mystery still unsolved.